back, it's Linda. I'm so glad that you're back inside my studio. I have a photograph that I want to work on today. Here it is. I've blocked out the faces. That was of my granddaughter and her friend. And I thought I would like to use that as my inspiration for an abstracted version of it. And I want to add a little collage. I want to do a mixed media piece. But first, let me say this. I am so glad that you found my video. I'm so glad that you found my channel. I'm so glad that you are here. I am pulling out my paints, my neocolor 2s, my temperas. The paint that I'm using is Nova Colors. It's the brand Nova, and I really, really love them. I've pulled out my phthalo blue red shade. I've pulled out the Pyrrole Red. I have cad yellow medium, and I think I pulled out the turquoise, the Nova Color phthalo turquoise. I also got out some magenta, black and white, of course. My standard neocolor 2 water soluble crayons, which I love, and I'm going to use those to kind of sketch out something different. I'm not just going to do random swirls and scribbles and marks. I'm going to focus on an actual composition. I want to try to be more representational in this. I'm still going to be abstracted because I am focusing on really honing my abstract mind. It really wants to go to representational all the time, and I have to force myself into the abstract. I have the photograph there with the faces blocked out. That's my granddaughter, Michaela, and her friend. I went on a field trip. I was a chaperone to a farm, and I snapped this photograph. So I'm going to use that as my reference throughout. I'm sketching Michaela and her friend with a red water-soluble crayon, the neocolor water-soluble crayon. And I'm just abstracting the background. It's at a farm. This is nothing. It's not going to look like a farm when I'm done with it, with my painting at least. But I was really enamored by the composition of this. First of all, therefore, forefront. And then I like that triangular composition behind them. Oh, you know, it's just really nice the way the fences lined up in this photograph. So I've tried to capture that in my drawing, my preliminary drawing. If you can't draw, you can certainly abstract this even further. Circles, triangles, rectangles, squares. I opted for a very hot underpainting because I would really like a lot of that to show through, pop through, or influence what I am putting on top of it as I go along. So I pulled out the Pyrrole Red and my Lucas Magenta colors. I just love them, and I am using them straight out of the pot and combining them. So they're not going to be pure, quote unquote. They will have a little bit of each in them. But I didn't want just a flat red background of one color. I wanted to give it a little bit of life. So I'm not just scrubbing in color all over the place. I am judiciously placing my brush in certain spots, and I'm placing paint in certain spots because I still want to keep that composition. I love the look of this already. And as I work through it, I'm going to try to pull and pick out the lights, the darks, and the midtones. You know, values don't get enough credit for what they do. Value, the light and dark of every color, is so important because it draws your eye to certain places. You can lead the eye, of course, with directional objects like this thing. This composition here had a very directive composition, almost like an arrow. You know, that big triangle in the back of them, behind them. But you can also direct the eye with values. If you have the darkest dark against the lightest light, the viewer is going to be drawn to that spot. There are So many tricks to using value. And here's what I'm going to say about some of the rules of art or creating or art making. You know, it's often been said you need to know the rules in order to break them. I break every rule. I truly do. I know them all. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what works, what doesn't work. I've been doing this, 35 plus years, and I still feel like a beginner, by the way. But I know the rules, and I choose to break them many, 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 many times. Feel free to break the rules. Don't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to do this and that. You can't mix these two colors. Mix them. If you feel like you want to mix two colors that maybe don't look like they should go together, mix it. What's the worst that could happen? You're going to find out that, oh, you know what? I don't like that. And then you won't do it again. That's the worst that can happen. Or you will learn from it and discover, wow, I really like the way that looks. So, I encourage everyone to experiment. When you get a new art supply, do like I do. I play with it. In my sketchbook, this is your playtime in your sketchbook. In my sketchbook, it's my playtime. So I don't worry about what I'm doing in my sketchbook. It's all a learning experience. Mistakes are only mistakes if you didn't learn from them. So I choose to not call them mistakes. I choose to call them, oh, that was a learning experience. That was a lesson that I just learned. And that goes throughout anything across the board for life. That's what I'm going to say about that. But this composition here is so, gratifying to me. I don't know, maybe because I have an emotional connection to the subject. That could be. It really could be. But I really had a wonderful time doing this. I enjoyed the entire process of this. So I am, if you notice, I added some yellow to my palette. That was the cadmium by Nova. And I mixed a little bit of orange. I also got a little bit of the turquoise. Well, actually, I think I just put out turquoise, and I mixed it with a little bit of yellow to get that turquoisey color in the shirt there on the one figure. I'm going to continue just building this, getting in the colors, the basic colors, the local colors. I'm going to try not to be so fussy with this. I don't want to overwork this per se, but I know moving forward, I'm not only going to use my neocolor 2s, my paint, I know I'm going to add collage to this. So I'm looking at this as, okay, I want to work towards a finished piece, but I know that I've got a long way to go on this. It's funny. Every painting goes through an ugly phase. Every painting. There's going to be a time when you are sitting in front of your sketchbook or a canvas or whatever you're painting on, a board, anything, whatever you're painting on. You are going to look at it and say to yourself, "Oy, what is this mess that I have just made?" I do that every single painting. Every single painting. Trust me, if you were inside my head, you would be hearing my screams that, oh, what did you do? Why did you put that there? What is happening? This doesn't look anything like what you're picturing in your mind's eye. But trust the process. That's all I'm going to say. Trust the process. It will get better, and you will work towards it. Every painting has an ugly stage. All right, I've pulled out my collage paper. Incidentally, this collage paper I have made. You can make your own collage paper. Some of that is just a stencil laid on top of tissue paper with some paint on it. I pulled out my black and white. I have drawers of paper, and I separate them by color. I don't separate them by pattern. I separate them by color mass. Like black and whites are together, patterns, neutrals, reds, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. They all have their own separate drawer because it's easier for me when I am pulling something that I want. If I know I want to put black and whites down, I just pull out the black and white drawer. And within that drawer are the darks, the lights, and the midtones of each of those colors. So the black and white will contain some grays, some, not as white of a white, like a cream color. And then I also have neutrals, which are a lot of book pages and tans. And I love using collage paper. So this paper that I'm using is exam paper, and Jackie Bernardi, I think I'm saying her name right, she has a YouTube channel. She does fabulous collage. I love watching her. I highly recommend going and watching so many creators because you can only learn it, even if it's not something that you are going to do. There's something in everybody's video that I learn from, and I think to myself, I never thought to do that. I'm going to try that my way in my paintings, my pieces, and let's see how it goes. So she turned me on to, not me particularly, but in her channel, she turned me on to exam paper. The paper that you put, that the doctors put on their tables. And I bought it and I used it and I love it. I also use rice paper and regular copy paper and tissue paper. I have wet tissue paper, tissue paper that doesn't dissolve when it's wet. But this exam paper, when you put these prints on it, like those big black circles you see on the left side there, on that paper, that is painted onto the exam paper. When it dries and you go to use it, when you spritz it with water before you apply it to your painting or your substrate, it disappears and all that you see is the pattern. Like if you look at the shirts on the two girls, I had those little tiny circles. That was from a stencil that I painted onto the exam paper. I spritzed it before I laid it down with the adhesive, and I'm using Liquitex matte medium gel as my adhesive. You spritz the paper before you lay it down with the adhesive, and the paper virtually disappears and just leaves the pattern behind. So you see all that yummy color that you have underneath, but you get this layer. Oh my goodness, how much do I love layering. So here I am, I'm just piecing this together. And now to me, this is starting to give me like a graffiti vibe. And I'm kind of digging it, I am. It's so funny. I use the phrase cool and groovy a lot. I'm old. Well, I'm old enough to know the phrase cool and groovy, let's put it that way. And my other granddaughter, not this one, my other granddaughter laughs and says, Dare. They call me Dare. We don't know why. My grandson named me Dare instead of Grandma. And my granddaughter, Ava, will always say, Dare. You say cool and groovy a lot. And I never realized I did say it a lot, but I do say it a lot. Anyway, I say dig it too, so I do dig using this because I think it's cool and groovy. Cool and groovy. Does anybody else use the phrase cool and groovy? I don't know. Am I the only one back from the days? I was a little kid in the 60s. My era was the 70s. But cool and groovy was a phrase that stuck with me. I don't know why. I don't remember anybody in my family ever using it. But, well, that's neither here nor there. So, all right, back to this picture. I am pulling out all the stops. I've got my neutrals. This is like a little bit of music paper from a hymnal that I got from a church that I love. The paper is really, really nice and aged. It was an old book. I love going to old bookstores, rummaging through. You know, half the times when I get to the counter, the woman knows me now, but in the beginning she would say, "What are you going to do with this book?" And she would say, "Oh, you really like this subject?" You know, I would get something like, I don't know, German business model, whatever, because I liked the graphics that were inside the book. And I would laugh and I'd say, "No, I have no interest in this economics. I am more interested in the imagery that's captured in the books, the charts, the graphs. I like all of that because I do junk journaling and I make all kinds of like that kind of ephemera, and I enjoy that. And I like putting it in this kind of thing, these pieces. And I love going through old bookstores because there's a treasure trove in there, a literal treasure trove. I highly recommend getting out and rummaging through old bookstores. Go to the thrift store. You'd be amazed. I found, 3 atlases. I actually want to go and get another one. I am in the middle of filming, you will see this in future, a very large mural for a neighbor's nursery. And it is an African landscape that I've drawn out. And I'm using all of the African maps and parts and pieces in the atlases to comprise the images that I've sketched onto this canvas. And I'm loving it. I am loving it. So you never know what you can use these things for. Dictionaries, oh my gosh. I love painting on dictionary pages. There was a time where I was doing pet portraits on dictionary pages. You know, if the dog's name was Queen, I would pull out the page that had the word Queen on it and I would paint the picture on it. I would use oil pastels for that. And it's just so fantastic. Don't limit yourself to just an art supply store where you have to buy a canvas or you have to buy watercolor paper. I paint on anything and everything. All right, back to this. So I am building and building and building the layers. And do you see how far removed from a farm this looks now? Now they look very urban. It's definitely screaming urban to me. Yet I used that photograph, and I'm going to pop that photograph back up soon. I use that photograph as my jumping off point, and I'm hoping that this abstracted image, this abstracted piece is a liking, that you're liking it. It is a little departure from the pure, I'm going to call it pure abstract that I am trying to teach myself since, the beginning of 2025. But my true heart is in representational, not, I don't really like painting something that, is photorealistic. I love looking at that kind of stuff. I think people who do that are amazing. I just don't want to do it myself. I like looking at it, but I don't want to do it myself. I'm more expressionist, impressionist. I like that kind of thing. And I'm really loving abstract. I love Picasso, Caran, Cézanne, you name it, all the big guys. But I also like, like Hockney. I guess he's a big guy too, right? But there are local artists that I think are fantastic. Like this particular painting that I'm doing here reminds me of an English artist. I think she died in the 60s. I'm not 100% sure. Joan Erdley. And I have mentioned her before, I think, on my channel. And I really love the way she paints. I have a book of hers somewhere here. And I really do love the way she paints. And now that I'm realizing that this is reminding me of the way she puts together paintings, I'm thinking that I'm not going to leave the faces like that. I think I'm going to kind of do a Joan Eardley, I'm not really sure how you pronounce her name, homage. She, in my opinion, the people that she paints look kind of otherworldly. They almost look like poverty-stricken, first of all. They're very grayed. They have gray faces and grayed skin. They kind of look otherworldly to me. And I think that's what I'm going to do with this one. I think I might gray the faces down a little bit. I am going to add features to this for sure, but I'm not going to add realistic looking features. So they'll get an eye, they'll get eyes, they'll get a nose, they'll get a mouth, but it's not going to be, this isn't a portrait. I'm not doing a portrait. If I was doing a portrait, I would try to capture the actual likeness of the children. This is not that. This is something completely different. I used the photograph only as a jumping off point. All right, I'm grabbing some more graphic collage paper that I've made. This was on a tissue paper that had like a shine to it. And all I did was I did asemic writing. Asemic writing is when you scribble something that represents words, but it's not really words. It's you can't read it. It's not legible. It just kind of, looks like words. I probably was thinking about what I wanted to write while I was doing it, but it was kind of like really loosey-goosey. You don't want it to be recognizable as any particular word. However, it does look like the word love written right there, doesn't it? And I kind of like that. I'm digging that. All right, so I came back to this, and I'm looking at it, and I'm saying to myself, it needs a little dark brought back in. So I took out my dark blue neocolor 2 crayon, and I darkened the shorts. And I am going to tweak the legs. I want to add some shoes back to the one little girl. The background is done. I love the background. And I'm starting to wind this up. This is pretty much done. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I really, really enjoyed doing it. I hope you know how much I appreciate you being in here with me, inside my studio, coming to my channel. I feel like you're in here. I don't feel like I'm just talking to myself anymore. I want to thank every single one of you who has subscribed to my channel. I am thrilled and astounded that I am getting people to subscribe to my channel by watching me. I'm hoping that everybody likes it. Please, 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 please leave comments. Let me know what you think, what you would like to see me do. Is there any inspiration that you have that you want to share? It could give me inspo. It could give me inspiration to jump off of, to do more to do more videos. Okay, here I am. I added that gray. I added gray to the face. Now I'm using my Stabilo pencil in black to eke out a little bit of a nose, some eyes, and I'm just going to draw a line for the mouth with my red crayon, and I think I'm going to tweak the face a little bit. I think I do, yeah. I'm putting in a lighter gray, for the hollows of the eyes, and then I'll add the dark in the center. Yeah, I zoomed in so you could see exactly what I'm talking about. I know my hand is in the way. I'm sorry. There you go. See, now you see a face. Do you see how it's grayed the faces? I just love that look. It's very ghoulish to me. I know. I don't know why. I did lighten it a little bit with water. That's just a brush with a little bit of water to kind of tone it down just a tad. Just a tad. I just love it. I can still see the form of the girls. They are kind of blending into the background a little bit, which I like. I'm loving the way this went. I added shoes. I think I'm going to give the little other girl a pair of shoes, although just one shoe because one foot is the only thing that's visible. I didn't add two feet to her. I toned down that one leg. It was kind of like screaming at me, jumping out at me, and I didn't want that to happen. I could probably tone it down a little bit more now that I look at it. But I love it. I don't know. Tell me what you think. Do you like it? All right. So I really want to thank you again. I appreciate everyone that comes to this channel. I hope you enjoyed seeing this process and me going into almost representational. I wouldn't say that this is completely representational, but you can say that it represents two girls. The background is completely different than what I started with. I am going to show you a comparison, what I had and what I ended up with. And I hope you come back. I have lots more to do. I have another painting that I want to do a video on that looks very similar to this. All right, there's the photo with the little faces wiped out, and there's the painting. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you come back and visit me. Here's some close-ups of the actual piece. And I can't wait until you're back again inside my studio. See you next time. Bye.